Good morning and welcome to 4D. This is an exciting time for all of us. It's the Christmas season, but it's also a season where we can see tragedy because of drinking, driving, and distracted driving, which is why we are all here today to talk about how do we prevent that? What can each of us do to make a difference? Over the last 8 years, we have lost 66 teens to underage drinking. People who won't be home for Christmas, who won't be here with their families. In addition to that, 864 were injured because of distracted, drugged, or drinking and driving. We can change that. Each of us can make a difference, which is why we're here today to talk about making those changes. This morning we're going to be first entertained by our Harrisburg Improv troupe. After that, we'll be dismissing you to go to your workshops. They're workshops for middle school and high school students. And while you're in your workshops, I'll be talking to your advisors, making sure you get all the resources and contact information you need so you can make your plan and go back to your school and provide this type of information for the rest of the students in your school. I'm very pleased that our Saviors has allowed us to be here this morning. We also have a thank you to Sanford. They are providing you lunch. If you like pizza, you're in the right place. And thank you to our coalition members for being here, our advisors, and our Prairie View staff. Without all of our help being here, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you to all of those who have been doing that, and a big thank you to you. At this time, I would like to introduce our Harrisburg advisor, Tracy Bird, and she will introduce her troupe.
Good morning, everyone. We're glad you're here. As she said, we are from Harrisburg High School, and this is our improv troupe. We're called Truth Be Told. So this morning's message is called If Only.
Drive safely.
Bye, honey. Watch out for stupid drivers. Dude, Mom would kill you if she knew you were texting and driving right now.
Teen was killed in a car crash last night. Reports say he was distracted while driving.
Turn down the music. It's too loud.
If only I...
Okay, now here's the part of the scene where we process what you just saw, and this is the part where hopefully you learned something. We're going to go through what you just saw, just kind of point out the obvious. Here we have Calvin, who was driving. Was he driving smartly? Can you name, somebody just shout out one of the things you saw him doing that was a no-no? Texting? Could you tell anything else that was happening in the car? He dropped his phone. That's a pretty big problem, isn't it? What else? Probably loud music, according to one of his passengers in the past. She said, turn it down. Can music be distracting? Absolutely, yeah. Did he have any other passengers in the car? Thankfully not, because who knows, what might have happened to them as well. All right, so let's take a look at the cast of characters that was behind Calvin. Who did each of these people represent? Kaya was teacher. Do you guys ever hear this from teachers? Like, have a good weekend, drive safe. I mean, us teachers care about you guys. We say things like that because we mean it. That's a message that we hear a lot, but I think it might go in one ear and out the other. We don't really take those messages quite as seriously. And I think in this case, did Calvin take it serious? Okay, next we had Brooklyn. What role was Brooklyn playing? She was mom. What did mom say? Do you remember what she said? Are you afraid to say it? The S word, yeah, we don't like to call people stupid, but there are some people on the road that make some really bad choices. And in this case, her son was one of them. He probably, if he could have injured somebody else. He could have hit, something caused the collision. I don't know if he ran into a light pole or if it was another car. We don't know the scenario. But in this case, he was the stupid driver. Okay, how about Elissa? What role did she play? Sister. Yeah, what was the message from the sister? Mom would kill you if she knew you were texting and driving. Does mom have to kill him now? I bet mom wishes, that he were still around. Yeah, these messages, guys, you hear them all the time, but they don't sink in until something really tragic tends to happen to us, so don't let this be you. Here we have Ireland. What was her role? Reporter. Do you guys hear tons of messages on the news? Highway Patrol is always putting PSAs out, and the public likes to try to get information out. All of that information is for your benefit. So she was just reporting another teen stat. Someone was killed in a single car accident. Calvin probably heard that news report. Did it matter to him? Did it really sink in? Obviously not. Okay, and then last we had Allison. Do you know what role she was playing? Friend, passenger at one point in the car telling him to turn the radio down, yes. Do you know that when you have a teen passenger in the car that it increases the chances of you getting in an accident like multifold? It's pretty substantial, especially when you are an inexperienced driver. I have a couple other stats that I brought with you today, just so you kind of get an idea of how big the problem really is. This is a stat from 2011, so 3 years ago. It said about 2,650 teens in the United States ages 16 to 19 were killed, and almost 292,000 were treated in emergency departments for injuries suffered in motor vehicle crashes. That means that 7 teens ages 16 to 19 died every day from a motor vehicle injury. That's pretty crazy. So the problem is big, guys. And you guys are the change. You guys can make the difference. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions too about some of the basic danger zones. There are roughly 8 areas that can cause you guys to get in a car accident. So what are some of the things? And you guys can chime in too, because I don't know if you guys know all these either. So I will start you off. The first one is simply driver inexperience. If you are not experienced behind the wheel, the chances of you getting in a car crash is really high. It's much more likely than someone who has been driving for a long time. Okay, so that's one of the danger zones. Can you name some other things that occur or might make you, a more dangerous driver? Drinking, intoxicated driving, absolutely, that's one. Probably that would play a role. Emotions can come into it. I'm going to put that one at, she said drinking is impaired driving, so you can be impaired with your emotions. Could you not? If you're really angry or you're crying, that can distract you as you're driving. Can you think of some more? Yeah. Cell phones, yep, absolutely. Texting and driving, and she said tired. Absolutely, drowsy driving is as dangerous as drinking and driving. So if you're tired, you shouldn't risk it. Passengers in the car, absolutely, yep, that's in there. How about nighttime driving? That's a danger zone. It's hard enough driving in the daylight. It gets that much more difficult at night. Not using seatbelts, guys. Was that what you were going to say? That would be distracted driving, yep. Anything that distracts you. Putting makeup on is a pretty big distraction. Eating is a distraction. I think reckless driving is the only one that we haven't mentioned. Do any of you teens drive recklessly? No, I don't think so, but yeah, really, we know you do. The chances of boys, teenage boys, is actually higher than girls because they tend to be a little bit more fearless behind the wheel. So, do you guys have anything to add? Let's interview our participants up here this morning and just let's get a feel. Like, when Calvin was saying, if only I'd, finish the sentence, if only I'd what?
Listened.
To what?
All the warnings.
All the warnings, all those messages. Which message do you think, maybe looking back on it, was the most profound or had the most impact that maybe could have made a difference?
I think the one from Mom, because she's going to be the one who misses you the most.
Yeah, family and loved ones. They care the most about you guys, so listen to their messages. They're not saying it just to be mean or to punish you. They're saying it because they care. Yeah. So, teacher, why? Like, why do you tell your kids to drive safe?
Well, I would say it's because I care about my students. And from my personal experience, my teachers tell me every single day to buckle up and drive safely and all that stuff.
Do you take them seriously?
Not necessarily at the moment, but then I'll think about it when I get in the car. I'll be like, oh yeah, she just said it's just a good reminder.
Okay, how about Mom? Do you think your kid really listens to you? Do you just say these things to say them, or do you think they're sinking in?
I think sometimes just telling people, oh, drive safely, it's kind of cliche. So to say, watch out for stupid drivers, that's way more realistic. And the irony of the situation is that he was a stupid driver. And I was telling him, a lot of times, my parents will say when I'm about to go on the road, watch out, it may not be your fault if you get in a crash, it might be completely someone else's fault. But you always have to, just be on your toes and, have your guard up.
Be a defensive driver. Yeah. Okay, how about sister? Are you the older sister or younger sister?
The younger sister, but their your older siblings don't really listen to you because you're younger, so. But it's still good input to put in there, so.
Yeah, do you think the bro really appreciated the comment?
No, not really.
Probably not. All right, how about the reporter? What can you tell us about having to report on all these incidences? Does this affect you?
It does, but there gets to be a point when there's so many of them that you just say what you gotta say and you don't even realize what you're saying.
And then the passenger, how did it make you feel to be in the car with Kelvin when he was driving kind of erratic and reckless and loud music?
Well, it put myself in danger, so then it made me second guess whether I should be in the car with Calvin or not. It made me second guess the other decisions that he makes, if he's gonna turn up the music really loud or if he's gonna text while driving. I don't really know what else he does when he doesn't have a passenger in the car.
So as a passenger in a vehicle, if you're riding with someone who is doing something that you feel like your life might be in danger, what rights do you have? What can you do? What would you do? Are you going to be brave enough to say something? Some of you might be. What if it's mom or dad texting? That can be hard, isn't it? How do you tell them to be a better role model? Because parents do it. I see parents text all the time. I actually took a pledge. After this 4D event last year, I took a pledge not to text and drive anymore and have held true to that pledge. It was not easy. So after today, I really hope you guys take something away from this personally for your own gain and make a commitment to make a change, whether it be just one simple thing like wearing your seatbelt every time if you don't already do that, or choosing to not text and drive, or even look at your cell phone, put it in the glove box, turn it off, whatever it takes to keep you and everybody else on the road safe. We really have appreciated your guys' patience and attention, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much to the Harrisburg Improv Troupe. Very powerful message. We hear those messages every day. Be careful, stay safe. But it's taking it and making it ours, a commitment. That commitment we can make, each of us today, to not text, not drive distracted. And it's hard to do. There are pledges and examples of pledge cards in your advisor's packets that will be available for you to take back to your schools. At this time, we're going to dismiss to our groups for our workshops.
Today is our annual 4D kickoff. We host that each December. At that time, we invite students in from the school districts across Lincoln and Minnehaha County to bring students in and participate in this event where they begin to plan what they can do back in their buildings for the month of December and into next year. The 4 Ds stand for the drinking, drugged, and distracted driving. Here in the Sioux Falls area, we've added that 4th D. Nationally, it's known as 3D month during December. We've added the 4th D, which is the distracted driving. The youth here in Sioux Falls area are the ones who asked for the 4th D, as they felt it was important that we also consider the distracted driving and becoming more aware and prevention efforts be made for distracted driving in addition to drunk and drug driving.
The last set of goggles is meant to, and maybe we'll just do the day ones since the night ones might be a little too dangerous. 0.17 to 0.20. So this would be somebody that's really, really intoxicated, okay? If you're having a little trouble or struggling with it, certainly lift up, something like that. We don't want anybody to run into a wall or trip over something. So, yeah. You want the night ones? Yeah.
I want the night ones. Yeah, me too.
Got this figured out, apparently.
That's a wall. All right, so some of you guys did a little better than I thought you were going to do, but for the most part, everybody just that much more impaired. So, like I say, since it's really just kind of giving you double vision, there's a lot of other things that are going on if somebody were actually under the influence of alcohol. Most of you guys knew that you were kind of struggling with things, right? You were kind of sticking your hands out, you were trying to grab tables, you were trying to touch the wall or whatever it is, so you weren't hitting some of those things. And some of that might be going on as well when you're under the influence, but for the most part, you knew things weren't right, right? If you're actually under the influence of alcohol, alcohol affects certain parts of your brain more than other parts of your brain. So obviously some of those parts of your brain that control balance, coordination, those parts are really affected. There's other parts of your brain that aren't as affected. Some of those parts of your brain that allow you to think that you can actually do some of these things aren't as affected. So you might actually think that you can
you can drive. You might think you'll be able to ride your bike or that you're doing some of these things and that you're not actually as impaired as you are, but you really are. So it affects different parts of your brain differently as well.
On our driving simulators, we help educate you on the consequences of impaired and distracted driving. We want to help you understand what would happen if you were impaired or distracted, so you don't have to actually live through the scenario. You kind of know up front what's going to go on. Give me some examples of impaired driving. Drinking. Alcohol is a huge impairment. Give me another one. Sleepiness, drowsiness is huge.
Like crying.
Crying, yes, that's a distraction. Very good. Or that's really impaired. That's an impairment. Friends, that's a distraction. Give me some impaired.
Texting while driving.
That's a great distraction. Yeah? Yep. What?
Drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's what they have across the street at Civic. They wouldn't stop.
Hey, there's a cop.
I know, right?
This is not Pepper's head.
Great. Let's get this airway tube going in. Okay, patient in the C-spine. Good, listen to breath sounds. All right, we got good breath sounds. I have no chest wall tenderness. His abdomen is soft, non-tender. Pelvis is stable. Checking the eyes. Fevers look okay, but I've got this really bad open deformity down here. First needs to pull the catheter in, and let's get a chest x-ray, make sure that we don't have bleeding in the chest, okay?
Young drivers are twice as likely to be involved in a drowsy driving crash as drivers 40 to 59. Oh, how did that jump up in front of you?
I don't know.
Now left.
That's even more trouble.
Smell an odor of alcoholic beverage coming from the interior of the vehicle. Do you mind putting your car in park and stepping out for me, please?
Oh, this is not ever a good one. Okay. I still like him.
Shouldn't use him as an example, but
I like his song. I don't like him.
All right, well, now what do you think is going to happen to you?
Oh, so that's the jail cell? Those are huge keys.
I was gonna say, look at them keys.
kind of hard to duplicate, aren't they?
Is that the jail cell?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they have the bars.
No, depends on which jail you go to. Here you're getting arrested in Sacramento, California.
Beresford, right? Has Beresford ever done anything about being a safe passenger? Or is it all focused on the actual driver and the act of driving?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of. Well, I think that at least it should be considered. And it should be talked about with your team when you go up to team time. Because when we look at the percent of crashes that involved 2 or more teens in the vehicle, how many of those could have been prevented if the teen spoke up or one of the passengers spoke up and stopped that from ever happening? You know, maybe it's taking the keys away from that person. Maybe it's taking their phone away. Maybe it's making sure that the driver is buckled up. That last video clip, what was going on? What was the main thing that drew the attention of the guy in the back seat? What was the driver doing?
Going really fast.
He was speeding, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Did he have a seatbelt on? No. So there was a couple of things that that passenger could have talked about. Number one being slow down. And I bring that up because when we look at teenage crashes in South Dakota, why do teens die so often in car crashes? What do you think? What's one of the factors of why teens die in car crashes at a higher rate than, say, adults?
No music. Reckless driving. Less
Yep.
experience.
Less experience. All of that comes into play, but a lot of times what we find in those fatal crashes is they're driving way too fast. That's why that video clip focused on speeding. And so the person doesn't have to be drunk. The driver doesn't have to be swerving all over the road. But if they're driving too fast, that's enough alarm for you as a passenger to say, hey, slow down. Because it's not safe. And you don't want to be a passenger in a vehicle that's going to end up crashing, right?
Our volunteers are from our coalition, the Coalition for a Drug-Free South Dakota. Our membership is those community members who really believe in a prevention effort and are willing to come and help out for an entire morning, helping with the kids in putting the efforts together. Our presenters come from a number of the Sioux Falls area agencies and businesses who also participate in youth-based activities. We have the Safety Village, we have some from Highway Safety here, Highway Patrol, Law Enforcement, Sioux Falls Police Department, Prairie View Prevention Services. We have a number of people who are bringing their expertise here to help kids understand the dangers of the 4 Ds, the drinking, drugged, and distracted driving. Each of the presenters also offer contact information and resources that the kids can take back to their school, and they offer themselves out as a possible speaker or someone who's a resource for them as a school to then put on something in their building. The goal really is for our kids to go through the process of hearing the information, then coming together as a group from each school building, planning their activities, and then being able to implement them with the help of our community and coalition members.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you had the opportunity to learn some interesting facts, and it looks like many of you got some things to take with you back to your school. I'm excited to introduce our next speaker. He's someone I have worked with for a number of years, and he spoke at our town hall meeting this last spring. Many of the people there said, we'd like to hear him again. So we decided to ask Captain Alan Walsh from the South Dakota Highway Patrol to come back and talk with you. So please help me in welcoming Captain Walsh.
Morning. I will do my best to not bore everybody here. I actually just rewrote what I was going to say this morning because I had a bunch of statistics and everything, and as I went through it, it painted a picture for me, but I thought, you sit there and talk about numbers and things, you're going to just lose people because it's too confusing. So I'll do a quick introduction. Captain Alan Welsh. I've been with the Highway Patrol for 26 years. District Commander for the southeast part of the state. And kind of my specialties in law enforcement and with the Highway Patrol, I've been involved with SWAT for several years. I teach defensive tactics at our training academy. And I also teach officer safety, which goes right along with that. Along with those things, the basic functions of the Highway Patrol, what we do, and if any of you guys are ever interested in a job after you turn 21, come see me, but we enforce traffic and criminal laws. We assist other agencies. We work together with the local police departments and sheriff's departments, game fish and parks, and all the other law enforcement in the state. We oversee the Capitol and governor protection. We prevent crashes, and when we can't prevent crashes, then we investigate crashes. So that's pretty much what we do, and our business is primarily just public safety, whatever that entails. So natural disasters and things like that, we work a lot of times with the National Guard and things. Whatever the public is in danger, that's kind of our function and where we come in. As I said, I could give you a bunch of stats that prove drinking, drugs, and distracted driving kills people, but I think everybody here already knows that. Unfortunately, many young drivers still become a statistic. Like I say, this may sound a little bit harsh, they're willing to gamble because they're selfish. I don't think they mean to be selfish, but they don't think about the impact of their actions on other people, which is selfish. And by that, I'm just going to tell you a quick story that has nothing to do with drinking and driving or a crash, and just to kind of get my point across. When I was on the SWAT team, we were doing an entry into a house and serving an arrest warrant out in a rural farmhouse. because there was a young man there that was suspected of having a meth lab in the barn, and he was selling meth. And so our SWAT team was getting ready to go in the house and get this guy. And as we talked and made a plan, we got some information that this kid's father, who he lived with, it was just him and his father in this house, that this kid's father kept a gun under his pillow when he slept at night. So kind of created a problem because I didn't want the officers to be in danger, but I also didn't want the officers to go in and shoot this guy who might just grab his gun out of a reaction thinking somebody's breaking into his house. So our plan was we were going to throw a flashbang in through the bedroom window, which would startle the guy. And granted, it's going to scare the crap out of him, you know, but at least we don't end up shooting him and he doesn't get the gun. And so that's what we did. We threw the flashbang in through the window as the SWAT team simultaneously went through the front door and got to that bedroom as quick as we could. And sure enough, hit the light, and our first guy on the SWAT team who has a submachine gun was right on top of the guy who did grab the gun from under the pillow. But he hadn't come up with it yet, and he was screaming at him, "Police, drop the gun, police, drop the gun." And he did. And then we put the guy on the floor and we handcuffed him. And I'm sure it was very embarrassing for him because he was sleeping with no clothes on. And we put him on the floor and handcuffed him. And he was scared and he was screaming. And I kind of felt sorry for this guy. And when we told him what happened and we got his son, you know, I thought, now this guy can lay into his son, you know, and tell him what he thinks. But the guy didn't do that. He just started crying, and he started trying to defend his son's actions, saying, you know, no way would he do this. And my point is, I think back to all the death messages that I've delivered, and I think you would agree with me that this guy's having a pretty bad night. And yet, I think it would have been worse if I went to this guy's house, knocked on the door, and said, you know, I'm sorry, your son's been killed in a car crash. And that's kind of the point of my story. I don't think that this son really thought about the consequences. I think he thought, you know, yeah, I'm doing something illegal here, and I could go to jail. You know, and that's the risk I'm willing to take. But I don't think he ever thought, geez, a SWAT team may come into my house, wake my dad up and throw him on the floor, and maybe even shoot him, because it was very close to that happening. And thank God it didn't. But I don't think he thought about that when he was thinking about the consequences of making meth. And so I think that has a very similar parallel to when you go out and you make these choices. And you know, I certainly hope that that none of you make those choices that have consequences for your parents and your family and those that love you. Don't think about in terms of just yourself. You know, don't think, oh, I'm going to be fine, or I'm not going to get in a crash, because though that's a risk and that's a gamble, you're gambling a lot more than just your life. You know, parents, I assure you, regardless of how parents show it, they love their kids, and the number one priority is their kids. I say that as a parent, and you know, they want to see their kids happy and successful. I'll tell you one other quick story here, but this is a true story that just happened, so I'm just going to share it. And I think it's another thing to think about when you talk about consequences. We just had a crash a couple months ago up near Brookings, and it was two young guys from North Dakota, best friends. Best friends their whole lives. These two guys are such good friends that they call each other's parents mom and dad. So they're drinking under the influence, and they crash, they roll over, and the driver lives, but the passenger gets killed. And we've seen that happen before, and it's a terrible thing. But then when you deal with it after the crash and you're dealing with the family, I mean, on one hand, I feel for these people. I mean, I have a daughter and I have a son, and I can't imagine if that happened. It's bad enough that that happens, but it was avoidable because it happened because he was drinking. And so he goes to jail, and the other kid is buried. And as the kid's parents come down and start pleading with the highway patrol to drop our charges, you know, we said, we can't do that. He committed a serious crime. Somewhat surprising, the passenger who was killed, his parents come down and they start pleading and begging us to, you know, not charge this guy. Tell us, you know, he's like our own son. And so I can't change the facts. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I can't. We can't just drop charges. The fact is, he drove drunk and he killed somebody. I don't care if that's your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, or your best friend. If you do that, you're going to be charged. There is no I don't want to press charges. I think people that think that maybe watch too much television. If you commit a crime, you're going to be punished, and it's a difficult thing. But you don't have a choice. You can't kill somebody and then, you know, people say, I don't want to press charges. It doesn't work that way. I think you guys know that to not drink and drive or text and use illegal drugs or even legal drugs and drive is dangerous. The statistics still say, unfortunately, is the bearer of bad news, statistics still say some of you will do it. And if you do, many of you, people you care about will pay the price. They'll pay the price with you, and they'll be impacted. People you care about, and I know it'll be people you probably didn't think about at the time you made the decision. And I say that thinking you guys are in the right place, and you're hearing a good message, not necessarily from me, but earlier from everybody, and learning something. So all I want to say is, you know, make smart choices and be an example to those that aren't here today. Because when I think about the statistics, the odds are that maybe you guys here today have an advantage, and maybe you won't be the ones that are the statistics because you're hearing a message and hopefully you'll act on it and do something about it. But there's a lot of people in your schools and your friends and relatives that are not hearing the message. So be an example and speak up, because I know my kids pretty well, and I really do trust that my kids won't drink and drive. I trust that they don't text and drive. I trust that they wear their seatbelt. But as good as they are, as proud as I am of them, I can't say that I don't worry that they won't get in the car with a drunk driver. You know, I don't expect my kids to sit there and run sobriety tests on their friends before they get in the car. I just expect them to be smart. And if their friend's been drinking, to not put themselves in that. I would like to see them stop their friends from driving, but I guess if they can't do that, at least don't get in the car. You know, and I know sometimes you think, well, that's my ride. That's my only way to get home. Well, then you better be calling somebody. Don't risk it. So I'm just going to close. I know you guys are hungry and ready to eat, and I guess my primary message for you that are here is to be an example and share your message with those that aren't here and don't know what you know. So be safe, and I appreciate your time, and enjoy your lunch. Thanks.
Thank you to Captain Welsh. We're now at a point in our program where we are going to ask each of you to come up with a plan. All morning, you've heard about consequences, making choices, and being a role model. How can you take these messages back to your school, back to your community? That's the challenge for each one of you as a group, to come up with a plan so you can deliver this message to your friends and community and school, wherever that might be.
They come together, and as they're eating pizza, they get an opportunity to plan and put their action plan together. We keep a copy of the action plan, and a copy goes back to their home school. We keep that copy to help them stay on task. If they have problems getting a speaker, doing some of their activities, we're there to be called upon, and we call upon them to make sure that they're implementing their plan. So it's a partnership that helps them get their work done, but also has us helping them out.